Alright, after that fucking Adam Sandler atrocity,
hmm
we can finally get to the finale of the podcast this week.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a
Halloween
shorter
Kills.
episode this week because there's not a whole lot to talk about. So we're going to be talking about Halloween fucking kills, baby.
Well, do you want to start it off since you've had more time to process the movie than I have?
So I saw this movie opening night because I'm a Halloween Nick Beard mark, and and I saw it with my friend Tony, and we went to the Regal Cinema that's by me, and there honestly wasn't as many people as I thought there was going to be. There was only me, Tony, and like six other people in the theater, which I thought there would be more for, Halloween Kills on opening day. But I'm glad there's some sort of people there nonetheless.
Yeah.
But we uh we had fun. So going into it, I was excited. I didn't know what to expect because I didn't get spoiled at all, thank God. And so and before we go any further, I do want to say if you made it this far in the podcast and you have not seen Halloween Kills yet, this is a spoiler warning. We're going to be going in depth into spoilers, so if you don't want to
Yes.
be spoiled, please click off the podcast, go watch the movie, and then come back. Um, but yeah,
It's
so
on Peacock if you don't have money to watch it on in theaters.
mhm. Or
So,
if you don't want to get fucking kicked out of the stream constantly by Peacock, just fucking take your fat fucking ass to the theater and watch it. So
uh,
fucking so I wasn't expecting it to start off with the flashback scene. I thought that that was going to be a thing that was later in the movie because I thought it was going to start off with like showing the recap of like 2018 and then like showing the. I thought it was gonna be like the trailer, the trailer opened with like the house burning and then the firefighters going to put it out and then Lori being like, "Let him burn, let him burn." I thought it was gonna be that starting it off, but they started off straight into 1978 with the flashback,
yeah.
and uh, the flashback was not what I expected at all. They showed a little bit of it in the second trailer, but the flashback was basically like showing Halloween night 1978, and it takes place after Doc Loomis shoots Michael 6 times, and he falls off the balcony, and so Michael's like walking through the back roads, and then we see two police officers. Well, we see a police officer chasing Michael Myers down a back alley, and they're playing like the final chase music from the first movie, which was dope as fuck. And they show what Michael looked like. They fucking nailed 1978
Yeah,
Michael.
they really
Like,
did.
like as good as they possibly could, as close as they possibly could. It was so like it felt like the 78 movie. That's how good they got it. And so we find excuse me, we find out that the officer chasing down Michael is a young Officer Hawkins, who we saw what we thought was die in 2018. But we found out it's a young Officer Hawkins, and he is after Michael, and he's chasing him down an alleyway, and then Michael disappears, and you can't find him. And then all the other cops meet up with Hawkins, and they're like, "Did you see him?" He's like, "Yeah, he went this way, and then he disappeared." And then they're saying how they were going to look for him. And then we cut to the. I was surprised they did this whole entire flashback at once because I thought it was going to be multiple flashbacks like throughout the movie, but this was like they pretty much like busted a nut in the opening of this movie, like all in one load, and uh, because it goes to a young Lonnie Lamb who we saw in the 78 film. He's the one where he gets dared to go in the Myers house, and then Loomis is like, "Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there." That's Lonnie,
Yeah.
and so it turns out that like his friends thought that he went into the, well, this is later in the movie, but his friends thought he went into the Myers house in the first movie, but he really didn't. So like Lonnie was like scared too. So in the flashback, like this after that happens, and Lonnie's like, "Are you kind of scared?" And then like his group of friends that he was with, they're asking him about something. He's like, "No, no, it wasn't me. It was Richie, who was one of the kids from the first movie." And they don't believe him. And Lonnie like stole something from them, I guess. And it's like these two girls and this guy, and they're like talking. They're talking so much shit to Lonnie, and they're like beating the fuck out of him, like bullying him. And um, so then we see the cops pull up, and the cops telling him like, "You guys need to get home like right now. You need to get home." And they're just asking why, like what's going on, and they're like, the cop was like, uh, he was like, "Have you seen a guy wearing a white mask stalking around here?" And they're like, "No, why? What did he do? What's going on?" And the cop was just like, "He murdered 3 kids tonight," and they told him to go home and shit. And so then they leave Lonnie there by himself, and they're telling, well, before that they tell Lonnie that the boogeyman's gonna get him. So they leave Lonnie by himself, and fucking the flashback scene was so great. And
It
so
was
like
really good.
Lonnie's like he's trying to walk home, and he ends up tripping and falling, and when he looks up, there's Michael Myers, the shape, and he's walking towards Lonnie, and Lonnie is scared shitless seeing Michael walk towards him, and Michael's like doing the heavy breathing, and he just stops and like looks at Lonnie, and then all of a sudden Michael disappears and the cops are there, and Lonnie's like freaking out. He's like, I saw him, and the cops are like, what's going on? And Lonnie's like, you didn't see him? It was the boogeyman. I saw him. He's gonna kill us all. And the cops figure out that Lonnie was talking about Michael, so they try to find him, and they can't really figure out where Michael is at first, but then they get the idea of like to go to the Myers house. And this movie marks the turn of the Myers house. And it's the original Myers house from the first movie. It's the same house, I think. Well, at least it looks exactly the same. Because I know the Myers house from the first movie, they like redid it into like a dentist office or some shit. So, and they moved it. They actually moved it from its original location to the location where they have like little like plaza from the one scene where like Brackett's like saying that a mask and like some knives got stolen. They moved it in that area, so that's where like the Myers house is now in real life. But so in this movie, they bring back the OG Myers house, which was really cool to see. They made it look exactly like the '78 one, like to a T. Like you could tell they really, really like paid
They
attention to detail, and they kind of had to
they
because
were
they
really
had John
good.
Carpenter on it, and they also like that was one thing they could not fuck up was the flashback, because like John Carpenter like entrusted them to go back into his movie that he calls his masterpiece, and to mess around with his timeline, so there was no way that they were going to be able to afford fucking that up, and I'm glad they didn't.
They were really good at like recreating some like things from '78, which really
Yeah.
amazed me. So
Yeah. And so they go to the Myers house, and it's Officer Hawkins and the other officer that's his friend. I don't remember what the officer's name was, but uh, they go in the house. Well, they look up and I think they see Michael in the window or something, and then so they go in the house and they're looking around. The closet. There's Jack in there, I think, or there's like, oh no, there's nothing in there. I'm thinking about the scene later in the movie, and um, so they hear like some noise upstairs, so they go upstairs, and Hawkins is like looking in one room and the other cop's looking in the other room. So the one dark-haired cop walks into Judas' room, and he looks out the window. And we find out that this cop was actually Michael's childhood friend, and he said that his mom like forced him to like have play dates with Michael and stuff, and they add the aspect of like he was like all Michael did was stare out his sister's bedroom window, almost like he was looking at his own reflection in the window, and that's all he would do basically. And he said Michael was like really weird, and so they added like that aspect to Michael where he like looks at himself in the window, I guess,
Yeah.
and which that they have that later in the movie as well, and then he goes to say the quote like nothing. He said like the quiet town of Haddonfield where nothing ever happens, and then Michael comes out of the fucking closet and like pins him up against the wall like he did to Bob earlier in '78, and like there's like chase music going, it's intense. You're like, holy fuck! Like I was sitting there on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my fucking god! I was so overhyped and overjoyed in that moment. I was losing my shit, and like Michael was fucking him up, and then he was like choking him, and then Hawkins comes in, and he tries to shoot Michael, but he accidentally shoots the other cop in the neck, and then he accidentally shoots the other cop in the neck, and he's like, "Fuck!" Like Michael gets away and goes downstairs, and then Hawkins is sitting there tending to the other cop, and we see Michael go out the front door, but the police show up, and this was the most surprising thing about the flashback. Not just the police show up, not just the police. Dr. fucking Loomis is there. And the
Yeah,
actor
they
they got looked exactly like Dr. Loomis. Like he looked exactly like as close to Donald Pleasance as they could possibly get.
yeah, they
It was
really fucking
crazy.
they did amazing by getting that actor.
Like I don't know if maybe they used some deep faking or not. I don't know really, but
Didn't look like it.
like yeah, it didn't really look like it. But like even like you could I mean you could obviously tell when he was talking it's not Donald Pleasance, but his like the way he was delivering his lines, it sounded like something Loomis would say, and you could believe that that was Dr. Loomis in 1978. And I was shocked because I did not think they were gonna have Loomis in it. Like I thought they were gonna maybe say like, "Oh, somebody better call Loomis. We got Michael" or something like that. But I didn't think Loomis would actually fucking be there. So
Yeah.
then, like, Michael walks outside. The police show up. They start beating the shit out of Michael. Completely start beating the shit out of Michael. They take his mask off. They handcuff him. And so that's basically how Michael got recaptured, and that's why he was in Smith's Grove in the 2018 film. And Dr. Loomis is there, and he's asking Officer Hawkins. He was like, "Has Michael killed again?" And like acting like the crazy Loomis. And then, well, there's more flashback later on, but it's fucking the opening is wild, and that's like the opening of the movie. And then the title card drops, and that fucking orchestral Halloween Kills theme song was fucking. It was so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It was so fucking good. Oh, and that. And I remember I was sitting there, and I was like, "Fuck, dude, this is just the opening of the movie. We still got a whole movie left." Like, I was sitting there, I'm like, "Oh my fucking god, man!" That was one of the most amazing fucking movie introductions I've ever seen. Like what a fucking way to start a movie. Holy fuck, dude. Like if that didn't get people hyped for the rest of the fucking movie, something's wrong with them.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I a lot of people were silent during the movie in my movie theater because my movie theater was a lot. It had a lot more people in it.
mhm.
Like it was shocking how silent people were.
In mine, like when there was a kill, like people would be like, "Oh shit, oh fuck," like people were reacting to it, which was fun. But they were quiet. Other than the kills, they were pretty quiet. Um, but yeah, like it started off so amazing, and then you go back to present time in 2018, and you see like the aftermath of like the house fire, and then the firefighters putting it out, and then like Lori screaming like let him burn, and then they show like Lori being taken to the hospital, and like it moves the characters forward, which is why I like the same night aspect of 2018 and Kills more so than Halloween 1 and 2, only for the fact that like Halloween 2 didn't really move the characters along that much. You could tell it's the same night, but it just felt like they really didn't move the characters along that much. In this movie, even though it's the same night, like they move the characters along. They show how everything is affecting the characters. They show the characters growing. They show like more things happening to the
They
characters.
show
Like, and
all
I
their
really enjoy
emotions. They
that.
show basically how how some of the characters go crazy in it.
Yeah. One thing I really liked is they showed that how losing her husband really affected Karen, because we didn't see that in the last movie, but like after the whole craziness of Michael Myers, she just kind of forgot about it because obviously she was worried more so about saving everybody's life than worrying about her husband that died. But then once the storm became calm, she there's a scene where she's like sitting in a stairwell and she's just breaking, and you really feel for the characters in this movie.
Yeah,
Like, and even like Allison, like they show her like upset about her dad dying, and like they're not really sure how to cope with it, and they're trying the best they can, and but at the same time they're also worried about Lori, because Lori, like they show, she has to get surgery from her stab wound and shit, and like so like the characters are dealing with like so much in this movie. They're dealing with their own injuries, people that got killed, worrying about people that are injured, but at the same time the looming inevitability that Michael is still out there, and they all know it. And for most of the movie, like Karen is in denial about it because she thinks he died, but
yeah.
they didn't know until fucking I think it was Sheriff Barker that told. I can't remember which character told Lori and shit, or which one told
Um,
Karen. I
it
think it was
was
Sheriff Barker.
Sheriff Barker told Karen,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
because he
other
did like
one
the interview with her. Yeah,
told Allison.
yeah. And so like then we also get introduced to characters from the first movie, because they reintroduce us to Nurse Marion Chambers, who we saw in the first movie in the opening with Dr. Loomis in the car going to pick up Michael. And then we also see the two kids from the first movie, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace, who Nurse Chambers was reprised by the same actress. Uh, Lindsay was reprised by the same actress. I think her name's Kyle Richards.
Yeah,
And for Tommy Doyle, they couldn't get fucking the guy who played Tommy Doyle in the first one, so they got Anthony Michael Hall to play
and
Tommy.
Paul Rudd declined as well.
Yeah, fucking Paul Rudd. Oh god. But so we get reintroduced to those three characters, and they're like at this bar, and they're telling like the story of what happened in 78, because it's like the 40-year anniversary. Keep in mind this movie takes place the same night as the 2018 one, so this movie is still set in 2018. So even
Yeah,
though it came out this year, it's still the 40-year anniversary of 78. So that's why they're talking about it so much in this movie. They talk about the 40 years like so heavily in this movie. And they introduce these characters like this couple. One's like a nurse and one's a doctor or whatever. And they kind of show them a little bit in the first movie, where they're like, it's the scene where like the kid Julian is like being babysat. Like you can kind of see them in the background getting in a car, which we do see Julian in this movie for like a scene. But
yeah.
so they're at this bar, and we find out where they were going when Michael went to Julian's house. We find out that these characters were going to this bar to for this like celebration thing for Halloween. And so they are like at first they get into like an argument with the older characters because they're like being too loud, but then they find out like who they are, and um they find out like who the characters are because Tommy tells the story, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll buy you a round of drinks, and they're all having a good time. And then also, oh, I forgot, we also get reintroduced to Lonnie, who I don't know who he was played by, but they have an adult Lonnie who is the father of Cameron, who we saw in the last movie, who's Allison's boyfriend. And um, so Lonnie, like, we see a scene with like Cameron, like trying to get a hold of Allison, but he can't because he fucked up her phone in the last movie. And he's also
Yeah.
trying to get a hold of Oscar, who got killed on the fence in 2018, who they show is still on the fence. Um, and Cameron doesn't know what's going on, and he's walking through like this area, and then he sees like a cop laying there, and then we come to find out that that's Officer Hawkins, who got stabbed by Dr. Sartain in the last movie. And surprisingly, Hawkins was still alive, which I'm glad they kept Hawkins alive because I didn't like the whole Sartain twist. I don't really think anybody did in 2018, but in this movie, they kind of made the Sartain twist kind of make sense a little bit the way they explain it. Um, but Cameron finds Hawkins and he calls for help, so that's how Hawkins gets to the hospital later in the movie. And then Cameron finds out about the whole Michael Myers stuff, um, and he calls his dad about it, which is Lonnie, and that's how like Lonnie finds out, and then so Lonnie's like kind of like bugging out about stuff, and then he's just like, "Oh, I gotta go. Cameron's in trouble." And then they see on the news, like it's like a social media thing where it's like going everywhere because everybody's phones start getting notified, and they play on the news that like bodies were found, and they were showing like stuff about like the '78 massacre, and they actually showed pictures of the people from '78. This is where they show Julian. They show him doing like a interview on the news about like how Michael was in his house and on all that shit. And then so that's where Tommy Doyle, Lindsay, and Marion and Lonnie all find out that like it's Michael, and so they go into like survivor mode. Well, the two characters from earlier, the nurse and the doctor, they go to leave and go in their car, and the nurse gets in because the doctor's like, "Oh, I forgot my stethoscope," and uh, he goes in, and then she gets in the car. Well, apparently Michael was just in the back seat of her car. This is like the weirdest scene in the movie. So she gets out because she sees like Michael's in the back seat, which is kind of weird that he was just in the back seat. Um, but I'm kind of like going all over the place because so much happened in this movie. So
Yeah. I'm letting
like,
Devon do his thing because, like, I'm not gonna go as in depth as he would.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So I'll backtrack a little bit. So the reason Michael is there now instead of in the house, you're probably wondering, well, didn't he burn up in the house? So they show the scene with, and they kind of showed this in the trailer, which kind of made the scene less than it was. So they show the firefighters go to Lori's burning house, and then they go in, and then the firefighter falls through the floor to the basement where Michael got trapped, and so he gets killed. And then the other firefighter tries to help him, and then Michael kills him, and then gets out. And we get this badass scene where all these firefighters are outside, and they see Michael walking out of a flaming house with a fucking axe, and like all the firefighters get ready, and then Michael just fucking goes to town on these guys, putting like axes and pickaxes through their fucking head. The one he takes like a power saw and turns it around on the guy's face is like some gnarly shit.
yeah, I
And
mean, I kind of like the way in, like, the first part of the movie, he wasn't using a knife. He was using
Mhm.
multiple different items. Like a
Mhm.
light tube he was using. He
Yeah.
used a power saw, a pickaxe, just different things.
Yeah. And then like Michael kills all of them and then like walks away. So that's how we know Michael gets out. And then they have this scene with this old couple, and this is Michael's next kills in the movie. He gets somehow is in these old people's house. I don't know how, and he so the old people are flying like their drone thing. I don't know why they have a drone, but like it. This thing was kind of dumb because like the drone flies into a back room, and then all of a sudden the drone just gets hurled back at them. I'm like, like thinking about it now, I was like, Michael was just a fucking dick for doing that. He just did that because he could, like, just throw that fucking shit back at him. Like he didn't have to do that, but he just did it to be a dick. But like, so the guy's like, what the fuck? So he goes and looks in the room, and he like closes the door real fast. And this was a funny moment. He was like, holy shit! And the old woman was like, what? And he was like, there's a big man in the back room, and he's got a monster mask on. And the lady's like, what does he want? And the guy's like, I don't fucking know. Call the cops. So then like Michael ends up coming out, and he slits the old woman's throat, and then he fucks up the dude really bad. And then this showed how fucked up Michael is, because he sat the old lady like in the kitchen while she's dying, and he made her, as she's dying, watch him stab her husband over and over and over and over again with like 10 different knives while she's watching. Like it was so fucked.
Yeah, it was a great scene. Um, most of Michael's scenes were great scenes and pretty fucked up too.
Yeah.
There's one point where he actually like holds a fucking child's head.
Yeah.
So
Like, so then after that, like, we know, like, oh, Michael's, like, back in town and he's fucking killing people. So that's how he ends up at the bar, I guess. So back to there, we go to where he's in the back seat, and uh, the chick is like, oh my god, Michael Myers is in my back seat. So then Tommy Doyle, he gets this baseball bat that I guess he just has at the bar, and it's called, like, Old Reliable or some shit like that. And because they closed up on it a bunch of times, and um, so he goes out and he's like daring Michael to come out. Like they make Tommy seem like a badass in this movie, um, but like Michael doesn't come out, and he turns the headlights on in the car, and like people are gathering. They're like, "What's going on?" And like some people are like, "Oh my God, it's Michael Myers," whatever. And then like Michael drives the car forward and almost hits everybody, drives down the street, and they're like, "Fuck, we got to go chase him." And then all of a sudden the car fucking crashes, and then we see like the crashed car, and Michael's just gone when they get to the car. I don't really know why he did that. I was kind of confused at that scene. That didn't really seem like something Michael would do. It was just kind of weird. But anyway, like after that, that's when Tommy and Lindsay and Lonnie and Mary are all like, okay, Michael's fucking back. It's been 40 years. We gotta fucking take care of this. And um, yeah, it's like I like the whole mob rules thing that they had with like Tommy and everybody getting the whole town against Michael to like hunt Michael down and shit. Like no more hiding, no more being afraid of Michael. Like the only way we can beat him is for all of us to team up together. We gotta. It's Haddonfield versus Michael. And
yeah,
I thought that was really well done. Tommy was like great at being the leader of the mob and shit. Though it did get to a point where like the mob too way too crazy, and also at the hospital they also reintroduce us to Sheriff Brackett, who's another returning character and is played by Charles Cyphers, him in the first movie. Um, and he's like still upset about like because when he finds out that Michael's like out there again, like he gets pissed because he obviously is still upset that Michael killed his daughter Annie back in '78,
Yeah.
and there's just like so much that happened. Um, like there's scenes uh where like Hawkins gets brought into the hospital and he just gets put into the same room as Lori, and like they have this wholesome like talk or whatever. I guess they used to be like they show that like they used to kind of be sweethearts back in the day, but it didn't work out or whatever. And they even like brought up another character from the first movie, Ben Tramer, and basically said like Lori did end up getting with Ben Tramer, but it didn't work out or something like that. So I don't know if that's supposed to allude to the fact that if they're saying Ben Tramer was like Karen's dad or something. I don't know really, but um, like
That'd be
Hawkins is saying like
interesting.
yeah, same here. I think it'd be interesting, but like Hawkins was like, I've always liked you, Lori, and all this shit. Um, and I guess Hawkins like tried to help her after that in '78, but Lori was like so fucked up in the head that's why it didn't work out. Um, but then there's like a scene where there's the other mental patient that wasn't accounted for because they said two patients weren't accounted for, a mental patient and Michael Myers. And so the other mental patient goes to the hospital looking for help, I guess. And somehow everybody mistakes this fucking balding fat man for Michael Myers. And they get into like this mob mentality where like Tommy's like hyping him up and he's like and like Sheriff Barker doesn't know what to do because he has no control over the situation anymore. Uh, which they don't do much with Sheriff Barker in this movie either. Which as many characters as they killed in this movie, which we'll get to, like it makes me think they're gonna do something with Sheriff Barker in this movie, like because they haven't
Yeah.
done anything with him in 2018 or this movie, so they're gonna have to do something with Barker in the third movie. But so like Tommy's hyping him up, and he's like, Michael Myers has terrorized this town for 40 years, and he's out there doing it again. He's saying the whole thing of "evil dies tonight," and they were like chanting it as a mob, and then like everybody sees the mental patient, and some dumbass is like, "Oh my God, it's Michael Myers!" And then the whole mob just goes after him, and he's obviously running away because he's a mental patient and like doesn't understand what's going on. He's just scared, and so like Tommy and Karen end up finding out that that's not Michael, and they're trying to tell, and Lori as well, and they're all trying to like tell the crowd like that's not him. And then this fucking asshole doctor, like, this is after Lori finds out Michael's still alive as well, because she tries to get up out of bed and she injects herself with a shot, and she's all ready to go fight Michael till the end. And then Karen's like telling her, no, you can't do that. And at the same time, they also got a hunt going on for Michael, where Lindsay and Marion and Allison and Cameron and Lonnie are all like going in their own like mob groups to find Michael and fight him and kill him. Uh, so and Tommy stayed at the hospital, so Karen's already like pissed that Allison didn't listen to her, and then now Lori's trying to fucking with a fucking like stab wound injury, trying to go out there and fight Michael, and Karen's just like, nah, you're not fucking doing that. And this asshole doctor just fucking full blown like Shinsuke Nakamura knees Lori in the gut, causing her wound to bust open and she's bleeding everywhere. I don't know why the fucking doctor did it. He did like a fucking Kevin Nash kitchen sink knee right to the gut. I don't know why. And they also showed like the mob was like tearing each other apart trying to kill who they thought was Michael Myers. And they even bring up the line of like, Michael has fucked with this town so bad that he's turning us against each other.
Yeah.
And
They drive
like,
the mental patient to suicide.
yeah, because he's terrified, and he knows that they're gonna kill him when they find him because they think he's Michael Myers. And we also seen in the 2018 film that Michael has some sort of like control not control, but he has some sort of like scare tactic over the mental patients because of how they react when he's around and shit. And so, like, the mental patient was thinking like, oh my god, like they think I'm Michael. They're gonna kill me, like no questions asked. So I'm pretty much fucked. And like Karen tries to help him out, but he just fucking busts the window out and jumps out before the mob can get him. And then he like they show him they don't cut nothing. They just show him splat right on the fucking ground, like brains everywhere and everything.
Yeah.
And like everybody's like, oh my god, it's not Michael. What have we done? And this and that. And like their excuse for thinking it was Michael's like, oh well, Michael's always worn a mask, so we don't know what he looks like.
Yeah, but
and
he doesn't
like,
look
okay.
like the fucking penguin.
He doesn't like he doesn't look like fucking Danny DeVito. Like I don't understand. Like it's fucking dumb. But that aspect was kind of dumb how they would think that. But like then after that is where they're like we have to stop Michael. He's like turning us against each other and shit. And so Tommy's like gathering anybody and everybody he can to like band together to fight Michael. And then we see the scene where what the fuck is her name? Lindsay, Marion, and the nurse and the doctor from earlier are all driving in the car by like a park. And well, actually, there's another scene before that. We see the Myers house, and there's a gay couple that lives there called Big John and Lil John. I'm not talking about the rapper Lil John that goes yeah, not that one. But they show that this gay couple lives in the Myers house, and they know that they live in the Myers house. And I don't really understand why they would live in the Myers house, but these kids play a prank on them for Halloween, and then they scare the kids with the story of the Myers house. But then this ties into the scene I was about to talk about, where they get to the park and they see those same kids that played a prank on the gay couple. They're sitting on the swing, and also these kids had the Halloween 3 masks on as well, the Silver Shamrock ones, which I thought was a nice little reference. I don't know if they were the same kids from 2018 that had the masks on, where Laura's like, go home, get inside. I don't know, because they also had the same masks on. But, so they are asking, Lindsay's asking the kids, like, what are you doing out here? It's not safe. Go home. And they're like, oh, this man in a what the fuck did they call it? I don't think it was a man in a white mask. They said, yeah. They said something like that, and they're like, oh, he's playing hide and seek with us. He keeps looking at us. And they're like, oh, there he is now. And then we see Michael. And they also said they're waiting for their friend to get back that has like the skull mask on from Halloween 3. And we see when they say there he is right now, and they show Michael, he's standing there, and he has what we think is the kid's mask, but in reality it's the kid's fucking head chopped off. And then like the kids are like, wait, why does he have whatever the kid's name was mask? And then they see the blood and they're like, oh shit. And like they're Lindsay's like, go home now, run. And then Michael
throws the head at the car.
Yeah, Michael was like so badass. Like there's a whole scene with like the car where like Marion shoots at Michael, and she ends up running out of bullets, and she like what she thinks is her last shot, she's like, Michael like opens the door, and she's like this one's for Dr. Loomis. And meanwhile Lindsay's trying to like gather bricks in like a pillowcase to hit Michael with, and so Michael kills Marion, and then the nurse takes the gun from the doctor and is like, you don't know how to fucking use this, I'll use this. And then she proceeds to miss every single gunshot somehow shoot out the headlight. And then when she's about to shoot Michael, Michael's sitting in the front seat, he just kicks the door, and the door hits the gun, spins it around, and she shoots herself in the head. I've never seen a kill like that in a fucking horror movie before with like
It was
a
badass
slasher.
though.
Yeah. And then the fucking doctor decides, hey, I'm gonna try to strangle Michael fucking Myers with a fake fucking stethoscope from my Halloween costume. And then Michael just looks at him and fucking stabs him right in the fucking eye with a knife. Like, Michael's just like, seriously? That's what you're gonna fucking do to me? Like, and then fucking Lindsay starts beating the shit out of Michael with the bricks, but of course it's Michael, it doesn't phase him. So Michael starts chasing her into the woods. And it's this like really suspenseful chase scene where it's like dark and all you have is like moonlight, and like she's running from Michael and he's just charging through the woods, and she has to like hide behind trees and stuff, and all we can hear is Michael's like heavy breathing in his steps. And like it looked like some Friday the 13th type woods. I was thinking some dumb shit. I was like, what, imagine Jason just pops out right now and him and Michael get in a fight, but that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But so she goes and hides behind this one tree that's by a bridge. Holy fuck, I got heartburn right now. But she's like laying there, she's trying to like cover her mouth so she doesn't like make any noise, and like Michael's like looking around right by her, and it's a really tense, suspenseful scene. And so Michael walks away from, or I guess he just lost her, and she's just laying there. It was a really fucking suspenseful scene. Like the suspense in this movie was really great. They also show like flashbacks of the other characters. Like they showed for Brackett when he talked about how Michael killed his daughter 40 years ago. They show a scene actually from Halloween 2 where Brackett like pulls down the blanket from the stretcher and sees Annie's dead body. They show that scene from Halloween 2, and that's like Brackett's flashback. And then they show like a flashback for Laurie where she's like, oh, I seen the evil when I unmasked him. I know what he looks like, and I looked right into his eyes. And they show like the end of Halloween 78 where she takes his mask off. And then for fucking Lonnie, they show, well, actually for Marion, they show where Michael climbs up on top of the wagon and smashes the window. And then they show for Lonnie the flashback scene from earlier in the movie, and I like how they tied in the flashbacks in this movie into the 78, and it actually fit very well. Like it seemed like it was from the same movie. And so there was like the flashbacks with those characters, and obviously you had the Hawkins flashback where we find out that Hawkins, like Michael could have actually been dead, but Hawkins is the reason that Michael is still alive. And like Laurie blames her. The reason in the last movie she was saying like Michael's been waiting for me, I've been waiting for him, and she thinks that Michael was obsessed with her because she didn't know that Dr. Sartain, this is how they explain that it makes sense, that Dr. Sartain became way more obsessed than Loomis did, and that Dr. Sartain was so obsessed with Michael that he wanted to know what it was like to be Michael. He wanted to know what it was like to see Michael and Laurie interact in person. And that's why the whole Sartain twist happened, and that's why he took Michael to Laurie's house. So meanwhile, Laurie was thinking that it was her that he was after, because she figured it was like a I'm the one that got away type thing. But what it actually was just coincidence. And so, and she's like blaming herself for all Michael's done, and then Hawkins is like, no, it's not your fault, it's my fault. And then it shows another flashback of like where Loomis was going to execute Michael. He was going to shoot him in the back of the head and kill him, but Hawkins moves and he knocks the gun out of Loomis's hand before he can shoot Michael, because for whatever reason Hawkins didn't think that was the right thing to do, and he was like a young, like dumb officer. And
Yeah.
so So he blames himself for it, and they're both telling each other like, no, it's not your fault. Michael's pure evil or whatever. Like, I really like all the characters in this movie. I don't think there was a single bad character in this movie. There wasn't really an annoying character in this movie. I really like the characters. Um, but like they show Michael killing fucking anybody and everybody. Um, they also show a scene of Hawkins in a flashback where like one of the because he killed the other cop, so the one cop was like, okay, well, give me your gun. We'll just say that um, he was in a he said that he was in a fight with Michael and he accidentally shot himself or something like that. And Hawkins was like, okay. And um, there's so much in this fucking movie. I'm like, this movie I saw, I think it's like 5 days ago now, almost 6 days ago, and I'm fucking still processing shit. But like
I
everything in
saw it
this
last
movie was so
night.
good.
God damn it! Like I'm
Yeah,
processing shit.
yeah, and there were so many kills in this movie too. Like nobody could fucking test Michael. But back to the gay couple where they're in the house and then they hear somebody knock on the front door. So they're thinking it's the kids again. They open the door, nobody's out there. And then somebody knocks on the back door. And they're like, okay, they're coming to the back door. But the back door, they see the back door is open and there's like blood on the wall. And I think it was like little John who was like, whoever whoever the fuck is knocking is not a kid and he's in our house. And then they hear him upstairs and big john big John goes upstairs and they both have hats on them. And like Big John walks into the room, Michael kills him, which leads Little John upstairs and he goes into like the room that used to be Judah's room and he sees Big John's dead body. And then he sees Michael and he's like, Michael, you've come home. And then Michael kills him, and then we see Michael like looking out the window and shit, and like Michael's finally, after 40 years, he's finally back in the Myers house. And so that's how the gay couple dies in the movie. uh then we see Lonnie, Allison, and Cameron go to the Myers house, and Lonnie, for whatever reason, tells them, "Oh, you guys stay in the car. I'm gonna go in myself and deal with this," for whatever reason. And like Cameron's telling him no, but Lonnie's just like, "No, I have to do this by myself." So he goes in, and then they hear something, and they immediately get out of the car, guns blazing. They go up to the door, go in the house, and it's dark, and they see a glow coming from the closet. They open it, and it's a jack-o'-lantern, and it was just Michael fucking with them. And so then they hear something upstairs. They go upstairs, and they find the gay couple's dead bodies, but then Cameron goes off by himself, and he ends up finding Lonnie's body stuffed into into like the little door that goes into the attic. Like Lonnie got fucked up. And
Yeah,
then we
he
see
did an on-screen
Michael.
kill.
Yeah. And then we see Michael fuck Cameron up. Like Cameron tries to pull some like Brady Halloween 4 shit, but Michael's just like, nah. And Michael absolutely fucks him up, and then Allison tries to help, and fucking Allison ends up falling down the stairs and breaking her leg. And then like Cameron tries to fight off Michael, but Michael's like slamming him everywhere. He fucking impales Michael on the broken like balcony on the stairs. I mean, he impales Cameron on the broken balcony of the stairs, and then like he's fucking up Cameron so bad, and Allison's just like pleading with him like, no, no, and she's like, come get me, Michael. And usually that works with Michael, but so Michael, being a fucking dick, starts walking down the stairs, and we see Cameron's like half dead, but he's still alive. And as
And
he
he
walks past
fucking
Cameron, he just stops and snaps Cameron's fucking neck just because he could.
that
Like,
that was fucking that was fucking great actually.
Like, he just did it to be a dick just because he could do it. Like, he didn't. Cameron was already half dead. He was probably gonna die anyway. Michael's just like, you know what? Fuck you. Just snapped his neck. And then, like, Allison was like screaming no. And then, like, Michael starts coming after Allison, and he's about to stab her, and she's like, "Do it, Michael. Do it." And then Karen comes in and stabs Michael with a pitchfork. And like Michael's like down, but she knows he's not out. So what Karen decides to do is what I've never seen anybody do this to Michael before. She goes over to Michael and takes his mask off and tells Allison to stay there, and outside, and we see Michael get back up, and Karen's like, "Come get your mask, Michael. Come on, come get it." And Michael starts following Karen with the mask, and Allison's just laying there with a broken leg. And then we see that she leads Michael through like some back alleys, and then Michael follows her, and then Michael chases her into the street, and he thinks he's gonna kill her, but all of a sudden like the lights come on, and Karen's like, she drops the mask, and she's like, "Gotcha." And then we just see like Tommy and Brackett and like all these people, like the mob surrounding Michael, and you're like, oh shit. And Michael's just looking around at everybody, and he's like, fuck, I was not expecting this. And so they all got their weapons ready, and Michael just looks at everybody, he's like, alright. And Michael picks his mask up and puts it back on, gets his knife ready, and he starts looking at everybody. He's like, alright, who wants it first? And they beat the ever-living shit out of Michael with baseball bats and everything. Even, like, Karen stabs Michael. Like, they beat the absolute shit out of Michael to where you think Michael's gonna die. And where he's, like, so weak he can't even, like, reach his knife. And they're thinking they killed Michael. Keep that in mind. They didn't kill him, obviously, because Halloween Ends is a thing. But,
Yeah.
And during this whole thing, they have Laurie and Hawkins, like, giving a whole speech about Michael and his evil and all this shit. And, like, the more he kills, the more he transcends, which is a line from the trailer. And saying that Michael is, like, true evil. It can't be controlled. It can't be defeated. It can't be killed by brute force. And as soon as Laurie says that, we see, because like Karen goes back to Allison and she's acting like everything's okay and it's over. But as soon as Laurie says he can't be killed by just brute force, Michael pulls some like, I don't even know type shit, gets back up, grabs his knife, motherfucker starts slicing people's ankles. I've never seen him do that before. He starts stabbing anybody and everybody. He's going full sick house. He fucking slits Brackett's throat. He stabs the fuck out of Tommy. I was like, oh my god, dude. He's just slicing and dicing the whole mob. And I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my fucking god. And
he kills the whole mob, and then he goes back to the house.
Yeah, well, we don't see what happens from there until Karen goes in the house because she sees something in the window. Now, some people were saying that she saw like young Michael in the window, but I don't know what you saw in the window. But for some reason, I was thinking she saw like the ghost of Judith or something like that.
No, she saw young Michael in the clown costume. That's
okay.
What I saw.
I guess I just wasn't really paying attention because I just saw like a figure in the window, and I was like, "Oh, did she like see Judith or something?" But okay, I guess that makes sense. It was Michael, and so she goes upstairs and she's looking out the window, and then as she's standing there, we're thinking it's just gonna end there. All of a sudden, from behind, Michael just comes out of the shadows and stabs the ever-living shit out of Karen, and Karen dies. And right after she dies, credits. Not expecting Karen to fucking die.
We talked about it last night, and we were both expecting Jamie Lee Curtis to die.
it was good. I mean, it was obvious some big character was probably going to get it in this movie, but I was not expecting them to kill Marion, fucking Tommy Doyle, fucking Brackett. Like, I wasn't expecting all these like characters to die. Like, I thought at least Tommy was gonna live until ends, but no, they said fuck you, Tommy, stab him right in the gut.
Said we didn't
Fucking,
get Paul Rudd.
I mean,
Fuck you.
unless they pull a fucking Hawkins and Tommy's alive in the next movie or some shit, but like, yeah, this movie was fucking crazy. The kills were gnarly. Every kill like hit. Like every kill was fucked up. Every kill like was like, oh my fucking god, Michael was fucked up. Like, and they also show like Michael looking at himself in the window, almost like he's pleased with himself or some shit.
Yeah.
And like it's like I was not expecting this movie to go down how it did, but I really really enjoyed this movie. I like this movie better than the 2018 one.
It was pretty
Like,
good.
like, and it really really makes me excited for Halloween Ends. It was
It
so
was
damn good.
definitely worth the wait. I could say that.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I did not get spoiled because that would have ruined everything for me.
Yeah.
That
Well,
makes me wonder though, in Ends, like, what's gonna happen in Ends? Because Ends takes place in 2021 or 2022, because they said it takes place years after Halloween Kills. So I wonder what they're gonna do.
I genuinely don't know.
But also, like, I'm thinking, I told Austin this yesterday when we talked about it. I'm thinking that um, either in Halloween Ends, either Michael's gonna die, or Laurie's gonna die, or they're both gonna die together. It's gonna be one of those three things. That's what I'm thinking.
I feel like it's gonna be the third. That's what I'm feeling.
Or they die together.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're calling it Halloween Ends, then it has to end.
The thing
Like,
is, I don't think they're gonna kill off. Like, I don't think they're not gonna kill off Michael. Because if that is the definitive end to the series, Michael has to die in my eyes.
Yeah. It's really going to be interesting, but we gotta wait. We gotta wait a whole nother year for that. It's crazy to think if we wouldn't have had COVID, we would be talking about Halloween Ends right now,
Yeah.
like in this movie, because this year was supposed to be when Ends came out, but because of all the delays, Kills got pushed to this year and Ends is next year. So we gotta wait a whole nother year for another Halloween movie. But I'm fucking excited. I'm loving horror right now because we just got Halloween Kills, which was amazing. We got Candyman, which Austin said was good. We got the Chucky TV show is out now. We got Scream 5 coming out in January. Apparently they're doing something with Texas Chainsaw. We got the Friday the 13th lawsuit over with. Like,
Resident Evil.
I'm really, yeah, that too. Like, I'm really happy with horror right now. It feels like a good time to be a horror fan right now.
Yeah. Well,
This is honestly this feels like the biggest horror has been, honestly, probably in a long ass time.
Well, I think it would be a lot bigger. I mean, in my opinion, this is because I'm a fucking Elm Street mark, but I want Elm Street, man. I really want Elm Street.
Well, yeah, of course it would be bigger because, like, it feels like right now, it feels so weird with Freddy and Jason not having movies right now. It feels like they're left out. Like, yeah, and I don't know what they're doing with Nightmare because they don't have a lawsuit or anything. I don't know why they're not making anything.
New Line's just fucking up. That's my thing. I'm pretty sure they're just fucking up. So,
Jesus Christ.
but with that being said,
I mean, I'm hoping we get. I'm hoping they get their shit together with Friday the 13th and get us some fucking movies out.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping especially if they're gonna start doing shit with Jason, they got to do something with Freddy. Even if it's not Robert Englund, they got to do something with Elm
I
Street
know,
because
I
this is
know.
like prime time, bitch, for them to do something right now.
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, that was Halloween Kills.
Yes, an amazing movie. It's probably the best movie I've seen in a while. Like, and we did like all the shit with the fucking live comments and Halloween, Halloween 3 up to Rob Zombie's H2, and I thought maybe that was gonna affect us watching this movie a little bit because I thought we were gonna be tired of Michael, but no, absolutely not. It didn't affect it at all for me. I don't think it affected it for you, did it?
No. After you told me it was amazing, because he saw it before me. I saw it last night, which we're recording this on Wednesday the 20th. So I saw this on the
Mm-hmm.
19th. He saw this opening day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
once Devon told me that it was amazing, I wasn't too like scared anymore. Because I was like, oh my
Yeah.
fucking god, I cannot handle another awful Halloween movie. I genuinely
Yeah.
couldn't handle if it was bad. So
Yeah.
I would have had a
But
fucking mental breakdown.
yeah, I'm glad it was good. I'm hoping Ends is gonna be good too. I'm hoping it's gonna be a really good end I know it's not gonna be the end of Michael forever, but it's gonna be the end of Michael in this like current timeline because they already said that's gonna be the end of it for this current timeline, and they're already talking about like doing anthology type shit after Halloween ends and shit like they did with Halloween 3. So I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but I'm hoping Ends is really gonna be a great fucking definitive end to the current timeline.
Yeah. Well, do you want to end this podcast today? No.